What up? Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
You know what it is, you know how we get down. Chilling in the party with hoodie rats around. Could it be they love the way we talk, the way we move, the way we walk, or the way we grew? Whatever it is, they love it. California
Mike Manifestations podcast in the house, baby. Let's go. Let's get it.
Say fuck it. Baby, come get some of Freddie G's loving.
We gonna party tonight. Bring everybody you know. A drum Bacardi ignite. This super down.
What up, what up, what up? Sometimes the most important conversations don't happen on a big stage or in a meeting room or in a classroom. Sometimes the one conversation that sticks with you happens to be in the most random places like the barbershop. And that's exactly where I found myself this week, sitting in the chair, catching up with my barber. And suddenly we're talking about something that affects all of us, even though we don't talk about it much. Let's get into it, baby. Let's get into it. Sanitation, your hygiene, your cleanliness. Yup. Yeah, he starts telling me a story about how he walked into Starbucks and the barista wasn't wearing gloves, touching everything barehanded, the cups, the counter, the register, the trash, even wiping his nose and still handling them drinks, And he said, Ben, I swear that's how I got sick, man. Shoot, that's probably how I got sick too, but but nah, I'm just kidding. I didn't even go to Starbucks. But anyways, I'm still trying to get over a sickness, man. I don't know where I get it from. Probably Starbucks or somewhere else. Who knows? And yeah, and it's crazy because it made me realize, how many people get sick, not because they went somewhere risky, but because somebody else didn't care enough to wash their hands or follow their basic sanitation, policies and stuff like that. So yeah, so today on Mike Manifestations podcast, bro, we're talking about the hygiene we expect, the hygiene we don't get, the ripple effect it has on all of us. Let's get into it, baby. Let's get into it. Thanks for following Mike Manifestations podcast, guys. If you guys haven't hit that like, haven't hit that subscribe button, I don't know what you guys are waiting for, baby. This is where you get all the daily shenanigans, all the shit that goes on that people don't want to talk about. We talk about it here on Mike Manifestations podcast, baby. So yeah, so keep it together, keep it locked in, and we here, baby. So my barber's cutting my hair, right? We're laughing, we're catching up on sports and stuff like that. He's a Raider fan, Raider fans ain't doing that good, huh? Nah, but anyways, I still give him shit, but he's a Raider fan. He's a diehard Raider fan. I'm a diehard Niner fan. So yeah, we give each other shit, every now and then. But yeah, so he stops and he goes, Ben, let me tell you what happened to me, the other day. That's why I'm trying to get over this cough, this sickness, He said the doctor gave me a penicillin shot. I was like, what? I don't even know they gave penicillin shots anymore, man. But yeah, he gave me a penicillin shot in the butt cheek. I was like, man, you crazy, bro. So yeah, so he tells me he went to Starbucks early in the morning, one of those days when you barely slept and you just need something to get you going. I don't know what it's like, I don't drink coffee, so those of you that do drink coffee, you probably know what he's talking about, You need that fix in the morning and everything else, And he notices the barista, behind the counter, the guy's moving fast, kind of flustered, touching everything with his bare hands. I don't know, are they supposed to have gloves? Are they supposed to do, when they make them drinks? I don't know what Starbucks policy is or what, but I feel they should be wearing gloves or something. But yeah, he says he had no gloves, no hand washing, just raw hands all over the cups, lids, the milk jug, even rubbing his face and putting his hands in the trash. Obviously, when they throw stuff away in the trash, he's putting his hands right in there and everything, and he's going right back to work, making your drink, And he said he almost walked out, but he was tired, running late, and he didn't want to be that customer, So he ordered a coffee. They gave him, and they still give him shit about the coffee, because I guess he was something about him putting his mom's name on as far as the they ask you, oh, what's your name? They write your name on the coffee mug, on the coffee cup. Well, he was trying to give his mom's name, and for whatever reason, the guy had an issue with it. So he's like, man, is this like a race thing? Because he's Asian. He's all, is there a religion thing, or is it, what is it? I feel like I'm being singled out. You know, yeah. So, but whatever the case was, which I mean, I told him, I go, yeah, you probably got a lawsuit, bro. You could be, racial discriminated or whatever the case is. Because for all you know, this person can be transgender and they can be, look like a Mark and be a Joanne. Uh, so you could be, sexually discriminating, racial profiling, whatever it is. Yeah. So the thing is, I guess his mom had to go in there and order a coffee or order something in her own name, which kind of seems dumb. Uh, you know, like I said, you never know who's who or who's what. So, anyways, so he ordered his coffee. He drank his coffee. Later that day, he started feeling sick. He said, you know. So yeah, so that's when he went to the doctor and got that shot and everything. And he says, bro, I swear it was that Starbucks. He even recorded it, bro. He showed me a video of, the guy doing the Starbucks, doing the coffee, putting his hands in the trash. No gloves, no sanitation, nothing. Um, yeah, I was tripping out. I was like, I don't know if that's the norm for everybody when you go order something at Starbucks. Um, I mean, even at burger places, McDonald's, and some of those places too. I don't know if that's the norm now. Uh, and I believe them. Because it happens everywhere. We put our health in strangers' hands every day. And most of the time we never know, if their hands are clean or not. It's crazy. Oh man. Yeah, so we don't know, could have been picking their nose, picking their head, picking their butt, whatever it is. So let's talk about it. Why is basic sanitation still optional in so many workplaces? And why does it take someone getting sick for people to wake up and be like, oh yeah, maybe I should wear gloves, maybe I should be a little bit more clean, maybe I should be sanitizing, washing my hands, whatever the case may be. Yeah, but it's crazy, bro. I mean, some people don't care. Some people are just like, whatever, but why is it though? People get comfortable. After COVID, you think hygiene would be at a lifetime high, but most people are over it. It was just a phase, we went through with COVID and everything else. Nobody wears gloves, nobody's sanitizing, no more wiping down surfaces. We went right back to the norm, even though the germs never left. Germs are still there. We just stopped doing what we used to do when we thought, oh, let's do this. It just because we don't get COVID or something. And workplaces are starting to prioritize speed over safety. We need more production. We need to get these orders out. We need to get this. We need to do that. You know, the fast food shops, the coffee shops, the retail managements, managers, they don't say wash your hands every 15 minutes, bro. They say, hey, move faster, handle the rush. We got to get these cars through the drive-through quicker, uh, we need to finish up this job faster. We need to get this production done quicker. Cleanliness becomes an afterthought for people nowadays, where before it was, hey, yeah, let's be cautious. Let's be aware. Let's not get people sick. Let's have them coming back, giving us 5-star ratings and stuff like that, but some people don't realize how many hands things go through. Every cup, every lid, every card reader, every pen they use for that tip, for that signature, every touch screen, every food wrapper, the whole day is a chain of fingerprints. Everybody's putting hands on everything, and hygiene isn't taught, it's just assumed. We all go somewhere and we assume workers know better. They should be wearing gloves. We assume businesses are enforcing that. We assume they wear gloves and they're washing theum, you know, But assumption doesn't prevent germs. Actions always prevent germs and prevent you know repercussions and stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, with that, guys, Dubby, I got my stuff. I got my Dubby. I got my Dubby cup. But before we get going, I want to shout out this episode's partners, Dubby Energy. Real talk, bro. Episodes like this take a lot out of me, especially when I'm sick right now. I think I research. I write late at night or in the morning. I need energy fast. That doesn't leave me sick or shaky later. Dubby gives me clean, focused energy without the crash. None of that artificial flavor or stuff. Their focused blend, keeps me dialed in when I'm editing or recording late. If you want to try it for yourself, go to WGG and use my promo code Mike Manifestations Podcast 24 for 10% off your entire order. That's www.w.gg. Promo code Mike Manifestations Podcast 24. Now let's get back into the show, baby. Let's go. Yeah. So that's what it's like, man. It's like, the reality of the germs don't really care about your job title. It's going to hit anybody, bro. Whoever you may be. Let's be honest. When the barber told me that story, I started thinking about all the times I've watched people handle food or drinks with bare hands, and it doesn't say anything, and didn't say anything. I've seen cashiers, sneeze, in their hands. Fast food workers pick up stuff off the counter. People wipe their face or scratch their scalp. Them piojos and shit eating you away, and they keep working. Workers touching money. Fucking money gets passed around everywhere. Dirty money, clean money. It's all different, dirty ass money. But yeah, they handle all that money every day, and then they get back to work. They're touching food. They're touching those cups. They're touching whatever. People cough in their hands and they keep going. We don't talk about it enough. Sanitation, slips are one of the biggest reasons people get sick. And we don't even know where it came from. You're like, was it that food? Was it that, that drink? What is it? Where'd I get sick from? It's not always big things. Sometimes it's the littlest things or the little daily habits, not washing your hands between customers, cross-contamination, those dirty counters, using that same rag over and over again, not wearing gloves when required, not switching them gloves, because, you should probably be going through a couple gloves, a day, because obviously, you're getting all that food, all that germs, all that everything on them gloves, and you keep just going with the same gloves. That's not sanitary either. And here's the crazy part. Most of the time, people don't mean harm. They're tired, they're overworked, they're rushing. Their managers are on them. Or they were never trained right. Sometimes it's training. Sometimes it comes down to the training where, hey, they never told me to change my gloves. They never told me to wash my hands. They never told me to, wear a mask. They never told me, whatever it may be, but the consequences, they still fall back on us. They still fall on the customers. They still fall on our families, somebody's accountable for what we're doing, and usually it's not that person getting sick, it's somebody else, but yeah, clean hands just save lives, period, bro. So what do we do with this? We live in a world where people handle our food, our drinks, our stuff every day, and we trust them with our health, especially some people, they're diabetic, they have a lot of weak immune systems and stuff like that. It's hard for us to kind of trust, put our trust in people where when we don't know what germs they've come across or cross contaminated and stuff like that too. So we got to take a little bit more precaution, in that aspect, not just as the customer, but as the, store employees and everything else, that trust, you know, excuse me. God dang, see? Yeah, it should mean something. Basic sanitation shouldn't be optional. Clean hands should be a luxury. Shouldn't be a luxury. I'm sorry. Clean hands shouldn't be a luxury. Gloves shouldn't be if they feel like it or if they don't feel right on my hands. I can't work with these gloves. It should be mandatory. You know. So I walked out of that barbershop thinking, if one simple pair of gloves could prevent someone from getting sick, why isn't every business making it mandatory still? Especially with that, that's stuff that goes into people's bodies, you're drinking, obviously you're eating, and if they're not enforcing that glove policy, at least, like I said, I mean, you got to change those gloves constantly, daily, couple times, and more so. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just simple stuff like that, bro. That's just gonna, you know, make this world a better place to live and to order, to be a customer, to be a business owner. And if we're being real, sometimes we're scared to speak up. We're not scared to speak up here on Mike Manifestations podcast, baby. You know that already. But yeah, we don't want to cause a scene. We don't want to look pretty, but being silent doesn't protect anyone, not even yourself. Because you don't know what's gone on already behind that counter when they come and they give you that food, or that drink. So my challenge to you and to myself is as well, if you see something unsanitary, say something, respectfully, calmly, but say it. Some people are scared to say something. Oh, well, what if they go back there and they make it worse, or they put something in it, or they do something to it? Hey, at least that thought, or even that whole thing comes into their mind and says, oh yeah, maybe I should be a little more sanitary. Like, put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel if you got something and you saw somebody, or they saw you, like, handling stuff without gloves and stuff like that too, or if you saw them and they served you that, would you be kind of cautious to eat that food or drink that drink? I know I would. I mean, but yeah, so, some people are just scared to say anything, I mean, it's like I said, I mean, some things in the world are not that drastic, Sometimes if me and my wife go out to eat, or something else, and if the food's not up to par, she's not one to come out and say, hey, hey, this shit ain't right, But if I see she's unhappy or she doesn't like the way it's cooked, I'll be like, hey, this steak's a little overcooked, or it's too raw, or these mashed potatoes aren't done right, or these green beans, or whatever it is, If it's not done, bro, like I said, it may be raw, it's gonna get you sick, or it may be overcooked, or whatever it is, With some of that stuff, I'm cool. I'll say, hey, this ain't right, Let's make it right. Let's do it. Let's go from here. But yeah, anyways, but because staying quiet when hygiene slips could mean days of someone being sick, And before I close out, thank you guys, seriously, for helping with this podcast past 100 subscribers. The goal now is 1,000, and then the goal after we hit that 1,000 is gonna be 1,000,000 or 100,000. And with you guys' help, you guys listening, your shares, your support, we can get there. So remember, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and remember, stay aware, stay grounded, and stay human, baby. Once again, I'm Ben. This is Mike Manifestations Podcast. We out, baby. Love you guys. Catch you guys on the next one. We out. Peace. Thank you guys for tuning in. Mike Manifestations in the building. We out. Thanks for watching. Make sure you guys hit those social media platforms everywhere you guys listen to your podcast at. It's been great, guys. Catch you guys on the next one. We out. Peace.